I'll first cover the works that are undated to 1678. Beowulf is undated, and its author is anonymous. It is our first piece of English literature. It was originally an oral tradition and eventually written down, and the most recent manuscript we have is from 1000 AD. It details the epic journey of our protagonist and hero, Beowulf, as he goes on a mission to conquer and slay the monster Grendel. It is an epic poem, so it is written with a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it tells the entire story. It was originally written in Middle English. Paradise Lost is written by John Milton, and it depicts the fall of man. It dramatizes the temptation of Adam and Eve and the eventual seduction by the fallen angel Satan. It chronicles how the couple were eventually expelled from the Garden of Eden because of their fall into sin by biting the apple that Satan offers them. It is written in blank verse and written during the Renaissance. Milton wrote in Book 1 that his purpose for writing the book was to honor God's work and to justify God's ways to man. King Lear is a tragedy written by William Shakespeare, and it covers the story of a king who disposes of his kingdom, but uses a pretty interesting method. He requires his daughters to flatter him, and out of that flattery, only 2 of his 3 daughters end up inheriting his kingdom, which ends up being tragic for all involved in the story. It is one of Shakespeare's greatest tragedies, as critics have noted. Although later audiences wanted a happier ending for King Lear, it still remains as a tragedy, as most of Shakespeare's plays are. You will have to be familiar with the characters in this play, so please remember to follow this one specifically up closely and read parts of it to be familiar with more details in the summary and the characters. The Canonization is a beautiful poem written by John Donne, and it follows his metaphysical technique of the conceit of comparing both the physical and the spiritual realm. In this poem, he documents how 2 people who are in love can never be separated because their souls are kept by God, who is eternal, and so that not even death can puncture the relationship between 2 people. It is a lovely poem, written and is one of the poems that follows the themes in John Donne's work, which is the binding of both the spiritual and the physical realms. Lycidas is a pastoral elegy, also written by John Milton, and this was dedicated to his friend who had drowned at sea after his ship sank in the Irish Sea. It is an elegy, which means it says goodbye to his friend and honors him in his passing. And in the sense of being a pastoral elegy, pastoral can also mean of the sea and of the country. So it honors the way that his friend was a seaman and a mariner. It is 193 lines long and irregularly rhymed. Pilgrim's Progress is probably one of the most important pieces of English literature. It has been translated in over 200 languages and has never been out of print. It is an allegory that follows the journey of a protagonist whose name is Christian. In a dream sequence, Christian must make the journey from his hometown, the city of destruction, to the end, which is the celestial city. And through this journey, Christian meets people who are intended to help him. Allegorical characters named Obstinate, Pliable, and Hopeful. The book is divided into 2 parts. The first part documents Christian's journey and successful connection to the celestial city in the end. The second part documents his wife's journey to the celestial city. Her name is Christiana. Her journey ends up being harder and taking much longer, which is supposed to mirror her difficulties of being a woman and a wife and a mother. This was very interesting as John Bunyan for the first time introduced to us the idea of heroes being women. We have our first heroine in literature. You will have to be familiar with this, and although I am providing you the summaries for these important works, please continue to learn of the details on your own and follow the unit questions so that you can be assured of the differences between these works.